The Irish love terrorism. They love terrorism, I think, almost as much as they hate the Jews. Of course, not all Irish. We know that there are many Irish people. Well, there are Irish people who support Israel, who support this channel. But yeah, Ireland does have a proud, although it shouldn't be proud, history of terrorism. London still has a shortage of garbage cans, just in case the Irish go back to their old ways. So now that they're trying to pretend to be civilized people, I guess maybe they're trying to live vicariously through the Palestinian people, and they have, of course, long before October 7th, but even more so since October 7th, since the most successful act of Palestinianism in history, they have doubled down their support of the Palestinians. They have awarded Hamas for October 7th with a recognition of a Palestinian state. And most recently, they have decided to join South Africa's problematic case in the International Court of Justice, claiming that Israel is committing genocide. Now, uh, even for them, that claim is not easy. Not easy. It's not easy to convince themselves, and they certainly don't think they can convince anybody else. Let's read from a little bit from their. So there was a press release by the Department of Foreign Affairs in Ireland. What's it? 5 days ago, saying that they have secured government approval for Ireland to intervene in South Africa's International Court of Justice case against Israel under the Genocide Convention. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but later on they say. Um, We are concerned that a very narrow interpretation of what constitutes, actually, paragraph before that, by legally intervening in South Africa's case, Ireland will be asking the ICJ to broaden its interpretation of what constitutes the commission of genocide by a state. We are concerned that a very narrow interpretation of what constitutes genocide leads a culture of impunity in which the protection of civilians is minimized. So essentially, Ireland wants Israel to be, held accountable for legally, if you can say that in the international law sense, for something that they don't believe Israel is guilty of. And I think that is the pro-Palestinian, the kind of less animalistic side of the pro-Palestinian movement in a nutshell. They don't believe in what they're saying, but they want you to believe in what they're saying. Now, Israel, in an unusually bold act of diplomacy, decided to close down their embassy in Ireland, to which the Irish Prime Minister issued some statement, against it and said something like, "We're not anti-Israel." I'm not going to read that statement. It was, I think, a bit ridiculous. But well, much of what they say is ridiculous. But yeah, this is not the first episode we've done about Ireland. I'm sure it's not the last, but it is one of them. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Daniel, your initial thoughts on this latest developments with Ireland?
Yeah, I mean the ICJ has happened, them sort of wanting to join the South Africa's case against Israel in the ICJ that happened a few days ago, and now with Ireland is not the first nation to join, so but now with another nation we can not submit any evidence against Israel even faster, so that's definitely amazing. The whole thing about like what the first people that came out with it, the first organization was the Amnesty International, talking about how we need to redefine genocide to sort of suit better for what's really going on. And it's amazing, in the video from the Amnesty International, they've also talked, this is the first live stream genocide. It's so clear, it's so like on the nose that we have to change the actual definition because otherwise it like doesn't fit. I mean, it really is a joke. And asking during the trial asking to change the definition. I mean, imagine if someone took you to court for murder and asked the judge, "Hey, sorry, can we can can we change the definition because this trial is not going good for me?" I mean that's like ridiculous. Even like well, it sort of proves, and I'm really wondering what the ICJ will do for the sake of humanity. I hope they will accept this request because it will become clear how ridiculous this is. I mean, even if you make up some new term to describe what Israel is doing, which we already have the term for it. It's called legitimate defense when war is declared upon you. But if they do something new, yeah, I really hope they do change it. It will show how ridiculous it is. Um, yeah, even if you had some good case about what Israel is doing, the reasonable thing would be, well, okay, under this definition, we say Israel is not guilty, and then we have a new trial and we do it under this new definition where we'll say they are guilty. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the courts say. People will always make up stuff to say against Israel, because international law is sort of like a really easy way to go because it's so vague and it's so it can be interpreted in many ways. It can be used easily against Israel, so that's what people are using. But when the Houthis bomb the international shipping, which is also against international law, then people like Norman Finkelstein will say, well, that's against Israel. We can allow that. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we can go through some of their statements, but basically, they're just grabbing on whatever they can to criticize Israel. That is the point. Like, there's literally nothing else. This is not. They talk about how we are not against Israel. We are for human rights, for innocent people. No, it's clearly anti-Israeli actions first and the only thing that this is.
Yeah. And I agree with you on, I also hope the ICJ accepts this. I hope they rule against Israel. I think the more these international bodies double down on what we already know that they are around this time, and certainly if Trump will, follow through on some of his rhetoric, then this is one of the things he's going to be better on. Hopefully, their case for Hamas and their siding with Hamas is the beginning of the end for them, or the beginning of the point where there's a clear divide, and Israel and the U.S. are on one side, the obvious totalitarian regimes of the world that, of course, support the Palestinians are on the other, and then we can see where Europe wants to be, where Australia, where all these countries that are free countries relatively, if they want to follow through on that tradition, or if they want to go down the route of siding with those who say very clearly that the West is also a target for them, just not as important as the Jews, and they're happy to collaborate with anybody on their journey to getting rid of the Jews. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, "Hi, Razi. Ireland again shows it's morally bankrupt." I agree. Tom says, or asks, "I wonder what the causes of Irish dislike of Israel are. Misplaced obsession with colonialism, maybe the dark side of Catholicism as well. Maybe. I mean, generally speaking, the more committed people are to irrational ideas, the more likely they are not just to be anti-Israel, but for that to be their thing, for that to be their cause in the world. The problem that they see in the world is the Jewish state defending itself against savages who actually live streamed an attempted genocide. Whether that meets the definition of genocide when you only kill 1,200 people is a different question. I think it probably doesn't, but certainly the Palestinians are 100% behind the extermination of the Jews. And they are, if you listen to them, that is what they say. So the idea that, if you're against genocide, you would side with anybody other than Israel is ridiculous. WUB says Brendan O'Neill does speak up against his country's anti-Semitism. Yes, of course, it's not 100% of the Irish. And Brendan, a friend of he hasn't been on for I think years, but he's a friend on the chat of the channel who's been on many times. On I think he's might be the guest who's been on the Daily Objective the most, and he is, by the way, he lives in London. So, much like many rational people born in irrational societies do, he left. So I don't know if this is the reason. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, oh, there was something specific. Oh, so because you mentioned that the number of Jews killed on October 7th was only 1,200. So does that qualify for a genocide? Well, according to the Genocide Convention, the number of people doesn't really matter. The only part is the biggest part is was there an intention to destroy a population in whole in part? And judging by what Hamas did, but judging by the way they've acted, I think they would definitely fit the criteria. Absolutely, there's no real way to go around it. I mean, when you are at a state of war, it is much harder to determine, and so. Uh, yeah, I mean, so after so also after this ICJ thing happened, as you said, Israel pulled out its embassy from Ireland. I think definitely there is really no reason, or morally, I think it was absolutely the correct thing to do. You have to realize nations like Ireland, like Spain, like Norway, and I think there were a few others. They recognized the Palestinian state after October 7, basically, as a result of October 7, absolutely encouraging for it to happen again, telling Palestinians the only way we will support you is if you kill Jews. Otherwise, we won't care about you. No one, yeah, many people pretty much didn't really care much about the Palestinians before October 7. After it, everybody cares, everybody sees. And what does that tell to the people? It's sort of, I don't want to totally infantilize people, but it's sort of like children. When there is a certain when you behave in a certain way after a certain thing, it will enforce that reaction. When Palestinians are being violent, that's when they get the support. As I said, that's when UNRWA, while defunding it for a little bit, many nations have restarted the funding, and that added more on top of it. After October 7, how many UN resolutions that were against Israel? There was an international push against Israel after October 7. They were absolutely rewarded for everything they did. The only punishment they got was from the Israel itself and United States to some extent, to the extent of their support for Israel. And now with Trump coming into office, maybe we'll see even more. But for the most part, they were absolutely rewarded. And so what the Prime Minister of Ireland has said. About this. So they said, this excuse that they seek to broaden the meaning of genocide in order to avoid impunity is bogus. I was trying to find a specific statement. Oh, I cannot find it now. They were also talking about, that Israel is sort of engaging in collective punishment. And again, at that stage, you want to ask, what are you expecting Israel to do? What do you want Israel to do? If you take the Hamas numbers, the 45,000, which by the way hasn't moved in like 2 months, it basically that's how genocide happens. There's like almost no deaths in like 2 months because there's I mean it's again it's
Well, that's
ridiculous.
why it needs to be broadened.
Yeah, and so talking about the collective punishment again when they we've seen that with Amnesty International, what Israel is doing to trying to prevent the civilian casualties, moving people, saying, okay, we are going here, we are going into the Rafah, moving million people from Rafah so they can go in. And what does Israel get from doing that? They say, well, this is also a part of genocide because you're moving population from one area to another. So it's like Israel should realize that there's no way to go around it. They It's not like they did certain actions and they are committing genocide. No, they are committing genocide, and then whatever actions they are doing are just reinforcing that. It's like it's literally like arguing with the conspiracy theorists. It's like every single thing you say, it just reinforces whatever thing they came up with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was away, but I think one of the shows you had about the Amnesty report was titled something like "Genocide is whatever the Jews do," and yeah, that is what it is. If you actually have to change the rules to make sure the definition to make sure that it fits. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. Daniel says there seems to be plenty of ire in that land. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says forcing Jews out of the old city in Jerusalem, as the UN wants to do, is cultural genocide. Um, and Jonathan Honig says, don't you think Leonard's book, Can You Really Love a Dog, makes a great holiday gift? I do. So people can purchase that. A link will be in the chat in the description. Um, yeah, so one of the issues with Israel closing the embassy is Israelis in Ireland, will need the services of the embassy, and I guess the solution in that case is get out. And unfortunately, there are more and more places where Israelis need to get out of. But look, you see what happens even in countries where the government is supposedly a bit more friendly to Israel, like the Netherlands. Um, you know, Israelis who are identifiable easily as Israelis are not safe anywhere outside of Israel. And yeah, that's something to consider. I mean, I don't think Israel should keep basically, legitimizing the government of Ireland by having an embassy there. Um, and there's a whole other issue, which is will Israel kick out or close down the Irish embassy? And that diplomatically even more of a bold move because it is going to have some sort of response from the European Union, of which Ireland is a member.
Yeah,
But
I mean, just quickly on the issue on of the embassies, we touched a little bit on it with James yesterday, and it's you know, it's like a spectrum. Let's say for Israel, having embassy in America is pretty much to the extent that there is a role for embassy to have place, America is like the clear one. When it comes to the opposite of it, I probably like something like Iran. Having embassy in Iran would make absolutely no sense. Even I mean, Iran probably doesn't even allow Jews to enter it. But let's say they did, you could go into it, and by having the embassy, you're sort of putting on a picture that Israelis are safe, that nothing will happen to them, or there's like a way to they have something to go to, and just remember what happened with American embassy in Iran, and so that's a spectrum, and I'm not saying Ireland is close to the Iranian side, but at some point when there's so much animosity towards your government, at what point do you tell to your citizens, hey, we have no idea if we can actually protect you in these countries. We have no idea to what extent these nations are going crazy, or the people in those nations are going crazy.
yeah, and it's not just animosity against the Israeli government. This is animosity
Yeah.
against the Israeli people. Like it's a desire to see the people who say they want to exterminate the Jews be able to do so unopposed, because that's what Israel is doing that is pissing off Ireland. As you mentioned, it took October before October 7th. Ireland was pro-Palestinian. They were anti-Israel, as was Spain, as was Norway. Norway, just weeks before October 7th, issued a statement saying they're no longer for a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution with everybody having an equal vote. Again, a one-state solution meaning, the fence that the terrorists on October 7th had to figure out how to get past would no longer be there. There would be no barriers for those seeking to murder the Jews. That is Norway's official policy, or was before October 7th. But yeah, officially, these countries would often say, look, this should be, there should be a two-state solution, but that should be, should come about in some sort of negotiation. When the terrorists live streamed themselves uh, committing the atrocities of October 7th, that is what changed it for countries like Ireland, and that very much um, yeah, that says it all. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says it's wrong. The UK has an embassy in Iran. It should sever relations with Iran. Yeah. By the way, generally on embassies, yeah, if you have diplomatic relations with a country, you have an embassy. That's generally the case. That's what makes this a bit difficult with Iran. It's not difficult. It is apparently for the UK because we do still have an embassy there. But um, yeah, I, in some senses, hope there will be an Israeli embassy in Tehran before the one in Dublin reopens.
Um, yeah, and I mean, talking about the one state solution again, because it's I'm always wondering what place does that exactly come from? Because it's almost like when they say one state solution, well, why don't we just have like one government across the whole world? Like the reason that there are separate governments is because you can't just like put any population, Abraham Lincoln talked about a nation divided or a house divided against himself cannot stand, or something like that. And when you have like, in case of America, when you have like large parts of population that are supporting something as abhorrent as slavery, and one side that doesn't, they cannot coexist together. And similarly in Israel, when you have one population that wants to prosper, wants to live free or relatively free, in the case of Israel, and you have other population that wants to kill them, how can you ever have like these two populations like living next to each or living in the same country, not even living next to each other? How can you ever justify like yeah, how can they ever, it's so, I don't even want to say naive. It's not even naive, it's like evil. Like you are a freaking politician, you are someone who should understand geopolitics, who should understand what's the reality on the ground, what's really going on here, and sort of just saying, well, I would like a one state solution, but everybody has, yeah, I want that, I want once, well, relatively, I think there's too many governments right now, probably there is a case to be for less states, but and where everybody has universal or like universal suffrage, individual rights to the maximum extent, like property rights completely. But like saying that, just saying, well, I just want so, it's like the people actually need to want it. Like as long as Palestinians are pretty much committed to the idea of killing Jews and do not care about their own prosperity, do not care about they are not selfish enough to want better lives for themselves. You can never have it like that. And yeah, it's not even naive. It's actually evil to advocate for such a solution.
Yeah, and that's the thing with countries like Ireland, with people who advocate for the Palestinians in the West. You don't hear them speak in the terms that Palestinians and certainly Palestinian organizations, all of them speak in, which is they want to exterminate the Jews. In the West, we hear free Palestine, which means if you actually wanted um, a free country, Palestine is not where you're going to get it. You hear, terms like about human rights abuses and so on, things that will appeal to people in the West, even though they do not appeal to the people we are being asked to support. Um, an interesting little thing that I saw in the Irish Times. They had this in one of their uh, articles. They had a paragraph. To date, this is about Israel's decision with the embassy. Um, to date, Israel has not applied similar measures to other countries, including Egypt, Spain, and Mexico, which also joined the petition accusing Israel of genocide. Uh, and that's an interesting thing to choose to say, because it is consistent with the pro-Palestinian side. Ireland is actually the victim here. They're just They're just asking for genocide to be redefined so that the only Jewish state in the world can be convicted of it because they don't believe that they are guilty of it. But why is Israel upset with them about it? Others are doing the same. Now, look, I'd love to see more measures taken against Spain and Norway. Egypt, I put in a different category. I would not have signed the peace deal with them. I would certainly not have given them any territory in exchange for peace, and I would not have diplomatic relations with them or any totalitarian regime as it is if it was up to me. Um, but yeah, this is still a positive. The fact that such positives can be applied elsewhere is a point. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish up with, after Israel, or after the Israeli, I think it was foreign minister spoke out against Ireland. I believe the prime minister replied, "I utterly reject the assertion that Ireland is anti-Israel. Ireland is pro-peace, pro-human rights, and pro-international law." He also added that he believes in two-state solution and for Israel and Palestine to live in peace and security. And again, it's almost this naive, but it's actually evil view of like the war, like Israel and the Palestinian people, or the Palestinian territories, whatever you want to call them, are just some like old couple that like are arguing and cannot cannot find a common ground. No, it's one people who just want to be left alone, and the other people who want to wipe them out, who want to kill them all. Who like what? What does that even mean? What does it even mean to say for Israel and Israel to live in peace and security? When you say that, there has to be okay. Why don't we have it already? It's like saying, "Well, I just want Ukrainians and Russians to live in peace and security." Well, what does it mean? What are you trying to say? Well, someone has to be making it not so. Someone has to be destroying the idea or fighting against the idea of peace and security. Are you saying Israelis are doing that? And if not, then what are the actions you're doing? Based on the actions you're doing, you're saying Israel is the one who doesn't want to be in peace with, or wants to live in peace with the rest of the neighbors.
Just quickly, a question here by WUB who asks, are you planning on covering the report by the Henry Jackson Society? Yes, we are. We've worked with the Henry Jackson Society in the past. We'll see if we can get somebody from them in the next couple of days. If not, we're gonna do an episode without somebody from there. But yeah, we will cover it. And of course, this is a topic we've covered before multiple times. The blatant lies about the numbers of deaths, but also we have the added point of it doesn't matter. And if it matters only in the sense that the numbers, the fact that the numbers are so low, even the fake numbers by Hamas are so low, is clear indication that Israel should reconsider its strategy. And of course, the number of dead Israeli soldiers is so high. So yeah, we will talk about that. Thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says Ireland is woke. Uh, is it wokeness? I don't know actually, and we are out of time, so
Well,
maybe
well,
next.
just quickly, because whatever left right means in Ireland, the sort of the more conservative parties, the more sort of right wing parties are currently in charge. So whatever it's going on, it's it's universal, or it's not saying everybody, but it's across the aisles pretty much. The hatred of Israel or the animosity towards Israel.
And just quickly, WUB says the report by the Henry Jackson Society made some eloquent points. Yeah, it was there was some new stuff there. But yeah. Anyway, we're not going to talk about it today on the reality show because we are talking about Cenk Uygur, who's apparently now MAGA, kind of. Uh, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Is it a step up? Is it a step down? We will discuss that on the reality show starting in a couple minutes. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the reality show.